All you need is Kirblog. Kirblog's all you need. Hey everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining. I'm joined by another guest today. You want to introduce yourself? Say hi.
Hi there. I'm Trailer Comic Drake from the Game Theory.
What? You're not Gaijin Goomba? This is bullshit. I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah,
oh my
people
god.
didn't.
No, he's away right now. Thank you for joining the first time on Kirblog, which is actually surprising because we've known each other for how long now?
I want to say it's been about 2-3 years at this point.
Yeah, that's great. Because when did you join the Game Theory channel?
About 2-3 years ago at this point.
That's great. Yeah, because I think I met you like right around that time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because you had seen my old shit on Newgrounds from many moons ago.
Oh yeah, I was the biggest Curb fanboy.
No, I've those of you who don't know, I've had the great pleasure of working on. I think we've done at least like. Have we done 2 episodes of crossover and the like together? Or did we just do the Mega Man one?
We did one Unpopular Gaming Opinions, and then we did one crossover.
That's right. I'm actually very proud of that. If you guys haven't seen the Mega Man Timelines crossover, I'm actually very proud of how that
it's a very solid episode.
Yeah. But I have asked Drake to join me today. He's kind enough to. We're recording this on Valentine's Day. Because both of us have nothing better to fucking do on Valentine's Day.
No, my fiance and I don't give a crap. We really don't care.
I wanted to do this particular topic. So those of you who who missed this one of this past weekend, I did a Kirblog about piracy and specifically how it impacts content creators like Drake and myself. However, I will admit, and I apologize to the person who asked it, who is TheApoke, or TheApoke. I still don't know how to pronounce your name. I apologize. But I felt a little like I had rushed through it, and I was realizing as I was recording it that there was more I could have said, and I was limiting myself to the 20-minute, time limit that I often give myself when I'm exporting a video on my own. I don't have Amy to help me out with exporting shit because I'm still a moron that doesn't know how to use Windows fucking Movie Maker. But that's another subject for another day. The point is, I wanted to go a little bit more in depth about this, and I thought that this would actually be a perfect way to segue into another question by TheApoke I got a while ago, which is the following. Hey Chris, I'm 15, I want to either be an animator or an actor when I grow up, but I'm not sure if that will be financially stable. I'm considering becoming a high school teacher and teach kids how to act or draw. Because then I'll be able to stay employed and not worried about cash. The only issue is that I'm worried I won't be doing what I love and might regret this down the line. What is your opinion on on doing what you love versus doing what gets you money? So, Drake, before we go into the meat of this actual topic, I do want to get your feedback real quick. Do you think, because I talked in this past Kirblog about how piracy has not necessarily like affected content creators, but more so in that like it's evolved entertainment media in general to where like people like shit fast and cheap and quickly
and free,
etc. And free. So, do you have anything like just real quick before we get into it? Like, do you have anything to say about that specifically and like kind of what you've witnessed from? Because you've been doing a lot of different things for a long time. Mm-hmm. So please enlighten.
Yeah, honestly, it really has changed the entire way that, almost every entertainment medium functions. And I think that actually impacts me as a content creator quite a bit because since I mainly deal with comic books and video games, piracy has allowed people, a wider amount of people to actually experience these things they ordinarily aren't able to, purchase by legal means because they either can't afford it, it's not available in the country, etc. And not only has it been able to make XYZ property a lot more accessible, but it also makes it easier on my end because then whatever topic I want to cover then has a bigger outreach. But at the same time, it's also kind of hurting the industry because they're not purchasing through legal means. It's a double-edged sword.
I'm actually curious because I didn't mention this in the video before. How does piracy affect comics? Because I know that there are a lot. Obviously for manga, there's like scanlation sites and stuff. But do people like have entire sites dedicated to like scanning like Marvel comics and shit like that?
Yes. Oh my god. And thankfully, a lot of the torrent comics do have a little message at the end, like, "Hey, go support your local shop." And like, if you're now current, you should go buy things. Now, I will admit, I do torrent a lot of comics because they're higher quality than the digital comics that I do legally own through Comixology.com. Just because these are really high-quality scans. But I typically only torrent comics that I already do own either physically or digitally, or that I sometimes torrent as a testing ground. Usually, like if I'm researching a video and I need to get some stuff, I'll read through it, and if I really like the comic, then I'll go buy it, legally. That way, I'm supporting the medium and also that franchise, so that we can get more. But most people, like a lot of people that read comics, do it 100% illegally, and comics come out every Wednesday. And they are up that same Wednesday. Every single comic that's produced, independent, mainstream, it's already there quickly.
Manga scans too. I mean, even with Shonen Jump, being smart and having the whole online service and everything. I mean, people still do scanlations of like all the major, like One Piece and Hunter x Hunter and all that stuff, like every week. They just do it so fast, and that doesn't necessarily equate to quality, but people just are like, I just want to see it and read it and experience it, whatever. Your deal about comics too reminds me of what I was saying about with games for me specifically, is where like I would emulate something if I have at one point owned or bought or whatever a legal copy of it before.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I think I'm trying to remember like a specific example. I might have mentioned it already, but yeah, because it's like if you've already spent the money or if you intend 100% to spend the money, then it's like, all right, it's not necessarily hurting anything. The problem then it's like, well, then if you get, too addicted to that, it's like, well, I'll just, whatever, I'll buy it eventually, maybe, and then you don't ever.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat, and also I reserve, it's not really a right, but I think that I deserve a digital copy of whatever I'm currently playing. So all of my Wii and GameCube games I have ripped, and I have ISO files on my PC, and I can play them at 4K on my Dolphin emulator. Right. So, I mean, I already own it. I might as well be able to experience it the best quality I can.
Okay. Okay. With that said, moving on to the actual topic at hand. No, I wanted to get your input on that as well, because it does tie in a little bit. So, passion versus livelihood. When I first met you, when I first met you, you were not working for Screw Attack anymore. Is that right?
No, I had recently quit.
Okay. So, but that said, I believe you did still have a day job.
Oh yeah.
In addition to doing your stuff for Game Theory at the time, and this was also, I think was this before they hit 1 million subscribers even?
Technically, I had been with Game Theory right before they hit 1 million subscribers.
Okay, man, it has been a long time already.
But I think
look at how far things have come by that point too. Isn't that
know.
Insane? Jesus.
I want to say that the first episode of Crossover did launch either right before or right after the 1 million subscriber special. But yeah, now we're about to hit, we're at 5.8 million right now, which is just ludicrous. Which,
by the way, on a side note too, because I don't think I've ever talked about this. I don't even think I've said this in a Kirblog with Goomba before. I'm very happy in particular that's the case with Game Theory and all the shows that you guys do in particular, because on another subject entirely, I feel like the internet and YouTube in particular is run rampant with really unoriginal types of content, and the fact that you guys basically make your business off of very original type of content that most other people don't do makes me happy in the fact that it's getting that much attention and people are genuinely that into it in the first place. So I'm glad to see how far it's come, and and really in retrospect not that long of a time. These last couple of years, it
really exploded
far beyond even maybe what any of us thought. Except for maybe Matt, because he seems to be a fucking internet prophet.
No, he definitely. I swear to God, he sold his soul to some sort of cyber demon or something.
It's also how he gets his good looks too.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, but either way, yeah. Sorry. So you well, actually talk a little bit about your Screw Attack stuff, because do you talk much about that time on your own channel very much? Or
honestly,
really?
not. I typically try not to, because it's a kind of weird thing. So, I have been doing professional content creation, like I said, on a professional level, since I graduated high school in 2011. But I had been making YouTube videos just for funsies on my YouTube channel since I was a sophomore. But as soon as I graduated high school, I started my internship at Screw Attack, and I worked there for 2 years, doing my own thing on the side. And then when I had the idea for Crossover, Matt Pat wanted it. However, I was under a non-compete contract with Screw Attack, so I technically made it for them for 6 months, and then I left and put it. Well, I quit, then made it for them for 6 months, and then I put those episodes on Game Theory. But nobody even knew that it was even on Screw Attack in the first place.
I didn't either, so I learned something new.
Yeah. So and then even then, I'm on a huge YouTube channel, and I still wasn't making enough money to actually support myself to pay for gas, my insurance, rent, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I still had to work retail jobs, and that was not fun. I do not miss working retail.
No, I remember like when you and I were first like beginning to talk, like that not, I don't want to say that was a miserable time for you, but that I could tell you were already in the state of I would much rather be doing just this stuff full time and not having to fucking be behind a counter.
I think I was actually working at the country club at that point.
Okay.
when I was waiting tables for really rich people and really rude people.
Yeah. Well, you are about as white as it gets, so yeah, that would but and you're in Texas.
Oh yeah.
But well, you were saying earlier like you were doing crossover on the side like that, so that wasn't like an officially like a Screw Attack series or whatever. You were doing that because you were already working for them and they were allowing you to upload stuff to their site. Was that what it was?
Well, what ended up happening was that I had the idea for it, and then they wanted it to be an official Screw Attack show, but I wanted full creative reign over it, and I wanted to own the concept. And I had also talked to Matt Peck, because I've been friends with Matt since the very first episode of Game Theory was made.
Wow.
Yeah, because Matt Pat likes to claim that I gave him his first initial push, but I was the one who promoted it to the front page of Screw Attack whenever he first made the episode. And we've had a dialogue since then. And so once he made his crossover video, I was inspired to make my own. I immediately pitched to him first. He said, hey, we want it on Game Theory. So I said, hey, Craig, this is going on Game Theory. And he's like, no, it's not. You have a non-compete agreement. So, okay. And that's why I quit, so I could wait out those 6 months.
Right. But more so to the point, you wanted to create something that you were passionate about.
Oh, definitely.
And doing something like crossover. I mean, by that point, like I would think for a kid right out of high school, like getting to work for a company like Screw Attack when you love video games and geeky media and stuff, and that's where you get, if I'm not mistaken, as you've explained, that's where you got your screen name from, is Trailer Drake, is because you were the trailer guy for Screw Attack.
It was definitely unreal. I lucked out, but honestly, I had been working. I've never stopped working since the day I turned 16. When I turned 16, I was legally able to work in the United States. Okay, I'm not an immigrant, but that's the legal age you're allowed to work here, with some leeway for younger people. But I first started sacking groceries the day I turned 16 on my birthday, and then I've been working ever since. And I actually worked a second job while I worked at Screw Attack because I wasn't making enough to be able to support myself, because I was also having to pay for college.
Right.
So even at the point where I was working and doing what I loved, I still had to have a boring job at a video game store just to be able to keep living.
Mm-hmm. See, now this is the thing too, because I and by the way, as always, I apologize to anybody for repeating any information that's been on a lot of previous Kirblogs. Just bear with me. When I was just exiting high school and then going into college, I had a job just about every summer for many years in a row, kind of during the Parody Rangers the movie era for you, Drake.
Thank you for that timeline.
Timeline. When I was working at this place called Eduware, and it actually was a pretty good gig because I could basically put in whatever amount of hours that I wanted over the week. I was basically doing what I was best at, which was animation and design and making sort of movies. They were like tutorial videos for some of their different programs and things, and I did animations for a lot of their interactive educational software and sort of games. And then like towards the end of my time there, I was also actually creating some little minor games for their website, which I've also linked to, I think, in a couple episodes ago. But either way. So when I was doing that, it was a pretty good gig, and like the rate was really nice, and etc. And I like at worst, like sometimes like the environment was a little frustrating, but like
what job isn't?
Yeah, and so honestly, like in the grand scheme of things, I was very fortunate to have that job. Now that said, and I mean, it's not shameful for me to say this, but the whole time I was there, I wanted to be home working on my own stuff, because by that time I had done all three of the Nintendo collabs. I was well into doing, not all three of the Nintendo, all three of the original Parody Rangers. I had just started the first Nintendo collab. I think I might have even like written stuff for it like while I was at Eduware, like the very first one, which is insane. But anyway, so like I was already in the mode of like, oh my god, I have the ability to make whatever I want, because by 2004 I was already making shit on Newgrounds for like a while. And once I kind of got into that mode, I had become enamored with, and this is even before YouTube had become the big place for doing shit.
Oh yeah, way before.
Yeah, I was enamored with that concept. So suddenly, I can just flat out say I was very spoiled in that regard, because I've never had a retail job. I've never had to wait tables. I've never done that stuff.
It's not fun.
No, and I know it's not fun. And the thing is, like, from many people like yourself, many friends that I had over the years, who also wanted to do stuff. They wanted to be creative and work in entertainment of any kind. They had to survive doing that sort of stuff. And when they get home from their 9 to 5, they'd be fucking exhausted, and they wouldn't want to do any more work, even if it was for their own stuff, because they'd just be like, I'm tired and I just want to play video games or watch TV or something.
Oh, see, I'm the exact opposite. It's, as soon as they got home from even like a 12-hour shift, I immediately started working. So I had been with my current fiance probably for about a year and a half by the point that we had started talking. Actually, no. I think we were like 5 months into our relationship at that point. But regardless, the only reason that I was able to actually talk to her and still interact with her when trying to keep up with my own content, my stuff for Game Theory, and my day job was because we lived together. Like, my social life completely was destroyed because, yeah, I was exhausted, but I still had to completely throw myself into work. And,
thank God for Skype.
Yeah, and even currently, I work about 100 hours a week just getting stuff out there, because when you are your own boss, you have to work yourself to death essentially, or nothing's ever going to get done.
Well, on that same note, it's like, yeah, like I do give you a lot of credit, because you have legitimately worked your ass off for a very, very long time. And it, as it's come to this point, like, it's paid off. Like, even with 100 hours, like every week and doing the shit that you're doing, would you say that you feel a lot more gratified now to be in this position?
I definitely appreciate it a lot more, and it's a lot more fulfilling, but sometimes it's still work. People, seem to think that, for when you do video game, comic book, whatever, it's, oh my god, they're just sitting on their ass playing video games and reading comics. Like, no, it's still a lot of work, and there are a lot of really soul-crushing times. And also, in my personal experience, playing video games for work and playing video games for fun are two completely different things.
Much like sex with porn stars. I mean, it's true.
It's exactly. It's work. It's still a job.
Well, can I ask you something? As someone who's done both, this is part of why I'm glad I
as being a porn star. Excellent.
Yes, as being both a porn star, having sex for pleasure and fun. Would you say in comparison to working a day job, did you feel like your waiting tables and retail stuff like that was much more like drone, like it's just like it's more tedious than anything, as opposed to creative stuff, whether it was for yourself, whether it's for Screw Attack, for Game Theory, for whatever, is much more like work intensive in terms of like the thought process and the actual like focus you need to put into making the content?
Well, at least with a regular 9 to 5 job, you know what you're getting. So it's never a problem. Like, oh, what do I have to do now? Oh, well, I have to go mop that floor. Oh, what do I have to do now? I have to stand at this register for 15 hours. No, like, that's... There's actually some sort of comfort in that. But whenever you're having to create your own thing, creator's block is a very real thing. And that's some of the, like, my lowest lows were, not feeling inspired and not knowing what I could do. But, and sometimes it's like, oh, maybe if I did just go back to this job where there is at least a steady paycheck, at least there was stability and comfort in that, and knowing that it's going to be the same thing, month by month. But there's while it is more gratifying to be doing my own work, it's still a little bit frightening in some cases, because you never know when this streak of good fortune is going to end, because it feels like, any day now something's going to go wrong.
Oh, yeah, well, especially in the case of YouTube.
Oh, definitely.
Because I said this a lot in the last Kirblog, but the fucking rules are changing every
Constantly.
second. Like, just in the last, like, in the last several years, ever since, like, kind of a lot of the artists that I, was producing stuff alongside kind of migrated from Newgrounds to YouTube, it's changed so many times for everybody. Even before I was full on, like, doing stuff on YouTube, like, I was seeing, like, all these massive changes in the system to where like, oh, we can make a decent amount of money, to, oh, now we really need to do a lot of shit all at once to make any kind of money at all. It's like, well, and I guess, you know, and if there's certain details about this that you don't necessarily want to disclose for privacy's sake, you're more than welcome not to. But I think in the last one I also mentioned, again, everybody, sorry for repeating tons of shit, I apologize. My deal right now is I don't have a job. I don't have a 9-to-5 like job. I moved to California a year and a half ago now, specifically because I wanted to find studio jobs at animation companies, because that's the type of 9-to-5 job that I would like to experience in. All of my work experience has been from home, like well, not from home, but like in the case of Edgeware, but like most of the time from home. And, you know, at my own pace, setting my own deadlines, doing my own sort of thing and everything, and making whatever money that I can. My income right now is a combination of the occasional voice work that I get, the occasional freelance job that I get, of which actually in the last year or so they've been much more sparse because just, you know, I haven't been pursuing that as much. YouTube ad revenue, and that's it. All of that combined is how I'm able to pay my bills every month, you know? And the thing is, like, a week for me is, you know, whatever auditions I get from, you know, especially now because I just recently got an agent, you know, whatever auditions that I managed to get, whatever jobs that, you know, managed to fall my way. I actually just recently got a new gig by the guys from Continue, who hooked me up with something, which, you know, major props to them. They're fantastic.
Very nice.
And then also, you know, just doing a Kirblog like this every, you know, 2 every week. In addition to whatever else I can put out. And, you know, especially because right now I haven't had a whole lot of, like, actual animated content coming out, you know, since Tome is over. Back when I was putting out, you know, like 4 or 5 videos every single week for, you know, a few months after the show was done. You know, so, like, that's not necessarily easy, and it doesn't guarantee it's like you're going to make, like, a shit ton of money or, like, a massive profit, you know, and it's not going to be a little strenuous to, you know, to pay your bills every month.
Yeah. Get them YouTube nickels.
Yeah, Nichols is right. In your case, what it, if not maybe like the full details, but like what is a week like for you in terms of like, or maybe even just a month, like in terms of like making a living for yourself?
Oh God, so I'm a unique case because I make stuff for Game Theory, Comic Drake, and Trailer Drake, but I also I have an editor, so the only way that I'm able to legally pay him and make that a tax write-off is if I have an LLC, which means that there's a lot of administrative stuff that goes into it. Right. So every month I have to be managing my spreadsheets for my bookkeeping. I have to look at the YouTube analytics, make sure that I'm still staying on top of the game, making sure that I have all of my different content being churned out. Oh God, I hope I didn't stop recording.
Did you?
Nope, we're good. Okay.
Oh. We're keeping it in. You can deal with it.
All right.
Continue.
I was really worried that I accidentally hit the space bar. Yeah, you know, scripting multiple videos, researching multiple videos, then voicing them, and I honestly would not be able to keep up the work if I didn't have my editor. Then I have to send it to him, and then if anything doesn't work out there, I have to like, hey, fix X, Y, and Z, and then I got to wait for another draft, and scheduling and uploading, and social media is its own damn job. And then product placement from sponsors, because, oh my God, guys, I would not be able to survive if I didn't take ads every once in a while.
It's a necessary evil of you know, our current, you know, I guess, generation of making YouTube stuff. It's just like those are, I've not had a sponsorship before, but I know how helpful those can be to even people who have like, you know, massive followings on their own, like John. I mean, like those help him pay his fucking bills, honestly.
Yeah, you still have to, you know, make a living. And like we were joking, it's YouTube nickels. We really don't make all that much off of ad revenue. So the occasional 30-second ad ends up being a huge deal. But then you have to go into negotiations with X, Y, and Z company, making sure that if you're doing a video with an ad in it, you got to make sure that that lives up to their expectations. And this also goes back to the entire theme of this video. You know, obviously I would love to not have to put product placement in my videos. And sometimes, you know, whatever company, let's just say Audible, for example, I've done one for them.
Sure.
They don't want to have a lot of swearing in a video because sure, maybe they want to keep a more family friendly image, but then sometimes I have to actually approach how I make a video differently to make sure that I'm appeasing my sponsors who are being, so generous to, to support a video. But that also is a completely different thing. So I have to, not only have I had to, make some changes with my editor telling, hey, fix this, it goes to me, then I have to send it to them, they get back to me, change this, I send it back to the editor, change this, sends it back to me, sends it back to them.
See, now that is literally passion versus livelihood. You're getting to, you're being, like, given money to do literally what it is that you want to do. This particular product is, like, what you want to create. And this company that wants to promote their product is going to give you money to show it at the end or the beginning or whatever, or in the middle of even sometimes, your video. And because of that, and because to befit to, their terms, you have to change things about your vision in order to have that livelihood from the passion in the first place.
Now, granted, like sometimes companies are better than others.
Right.
It really depends on the company's image, but in some cases I have had to change things. I don't want it to seem like every single sponsor has made me change something.
Sure, yeah. And that's not also to add to that, that's not faulting them either.
Yeah.
Like, they have absolutely every right and every perfectly good reason to want to be careful about stuff like that in the first place, because, that can be, public image is very important to to big companies like that are trying to sell you a literal product, like a tangible thing.
And also, my video is a product, because they're paying for this thing, so they want it to be to their expectations.
Right. See, the funny thing, too, I've never done that before, but in watching a lot of different, like, types of sponsored content, we're getting into the South Park thing now, sponsored content, seeing a lot of how different creators, and even, like, big movies and TV shows or whatever, have their sponsors integrated into the thing. I always like it when it's utilized in an interesting way. Like, for instance, I'll say this. I don't even know if this necessarily would have worked, but if Tome was sponsored by an actual like company or like a product or whatever, right? You know what I would totally do is I would have in the beginning of an episode, that thing in like anime where they have
sponsor.
Like, I would absolutely do that in English.
That sounds amazing.
Because that would fit within the scheme of how the show is.
Definitely.
Or I would also probably have something like at the end, like, this program's sponsored by blah blah blah, instead of just a little separate thing and not have it be intrusive to the story itself. Because especially when you're doing, like, for you guys, you're like doing like a presentation in terms of info, so you can have it be like just at the end and it's not like that off-putting.
Yeah.
If it's like a story experience, then like, by the way, buy this product, it's like, all right, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in reaching out to a few sponsors, because I actually have good ideas for videos that I think would be a good integration. So there's a big sponsor I've been seeing sponsoring Rooster Teeth called Me Undies. And my fiance actually uses them. They're a underwear company. That's literally all they do. You buy underwear and then they send it to you. They're comfy as shit. So what I want to do is I want to pitch them a video like, hey guys, I would love for you to sponsor me. I'm going to do a Captain Underpants video. Because it'd be something fun and unique that you don't see anywhere else, and it would only really be possible, because of that. Now, granted, I could make a Captain Underpants video whenever I want, but if I can make a little bit of extra money on the side so I can, afford to feed my dog, why not?
Well, and that's thinking smart, because that's using the livelihood side in in a creative way so that it fits in with the passion side. Like, see, this is the thing too. I'll even say this, going back to Tome again as well. So when I was thinking about doing Tome, actually, to be honest, originally, I don't think I ever told you this, and I think I might have talked about this very, very briefly in one of like the commentaries or something, but I wanted to do this last incarnation of Tome, not TTA,
sure.
As a game. And I actually was talking with one of the programmers that I worked with at Eduware, going full circle on that, about the prospect of doing that. And originally it was going to be like an episodic platformer where, like, the equivalent of, episode 1 of Tome would have been a couple levels and then you fight Raccoon and Doubling at the end kind of thing, right? And the story would unfold that way. And then it didn't end up happening, and then I was thinking about doing it as a web series, to which I was eventually urged, and everybody knows the whole story about how the show came to be. But in terms of like thinking, okay, I would like to be able to make some amount of money on this. So Newgrounds sponsored me for the first 4 episodes and they gave me a small budget to work with that I was able to split up between the other background artists and the actors and everything, and the musicians, et cetera, et cetera. And we were able to, have like some amount of money, and then also the ad revenue that we'd make from Newgrounds. Which, by the way, I actually remind me, has YouTube adopted a system like Newgrounds now, where like you can allocate like how much money the different people that work on it can make or something? Because I know they have like a credits system now.
No, but that sounds amazing.
So yeah, see, like Newgrounds had if those of you who don't know, Newgrounds had this they still do, have this amazing system where you can divvy up a percentage in the ad revenue that everybody makes on a particular video. So what I did was I split up like obviously I would take the grand majority of it because I was doing all the hours of work into the animation.
Of course.
But I would split it up between the musician, the sound designer, which was also the main actor, and the guy who sang the songs and everything, Shady, the background artist, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes if I have like an assistant animator or something, that's how I would go about doing that. And even though it wasn't a lot of money, it was enough to fairly distribute it between us. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I had to keep in mind too was, okay, I was warned, and this I know I've said not only many times on Kirblog, but to you in confidence, Drake.
Sure.
I was warned by other people when I was finishing up my phase of doing all parody stuff, saying, listen, if you want to do original stuff, Chris, that's awesome, more power to you. But you have to understand that now that you have this reputation and people know and like you for what you do, getting them to give a shit about your original content, especially when getting anybody on the internet to give a shit about original content is difficult, is going to be really, really hard. I just today, on Valentine's Day, I had a person asking me, like, how did you amass the following that you had on Tome? And it was like 4 years of really hard work and a lot of help from a lot of friends who were very generous in the favors that they did for me. And the thing is, like, going into it, I thought, okay, well, what's a safe way to go about this? I know that TTA, the original version of it from way back in the day, had somewhat of a followership. I can't fully depend on that, but the story is set in a video game world. So it being video game based, even though it's not, pre-existing characters or whatever, that in and of itself is a big appeal. People, who like stuff like .hack, Mega Man Battle Network, etc., will be drawn into that. And, and even though I didn't necessarily want to go this route, because I actually kind of hate when people do this sort of thing, because I feel like sometimes it could be at the extent of, what's the word? Oh, I'm sorry, at the expense.
Yeah.
Expense, Jesus. Of a better performance is I cast a lot of people who had names that could therefore promote when an episode was out. Now, I like to think on that note that I cast people such as, Martin, obviously people know and love him as Little Karibo. Martin is also a fucking fantastic actor, and he was amazing on Nightlock. And the fact that I ever considered anybody else but him for that part now is ludicrous to me. But even then, like, I also didn't want to be like, featuring Little Karibo, I'm a jerk-off kind of thing, because I used to do that back in the day with Parody Rangers.
Everybody's done that at some point if you're a content creator.
Yeah, and it's like, and it makes sense. It's the reason why fucking Pixar and DreamWorks do that with all their animated movies. But it's also, it can be shallow and a little, like, cheap kind of thing. Well, not cheap, because it's expensive as fuck in their cases, but you know what I mean. Either way. So my point in all that is the fact that I tried to be very thoughtful in terms of, like, okay, what is the full plan that I'm having with this, so that I can do this thing that I am passionate about and also have it be part of my livelihood. Because while I was doing Tome for those 4 years, I was also doing still lots of freelance jobs, any voiceover work that I could find, which, even back then was not a whole lot because I was still starting off early on. And anything that I could get my hands on, to be able to pay my bills. And this was also before I was living on my own too. In the last year and a half, it's been all me. And, in terms of, like, staying at the apartment that I'm at and everything, etc. And I was very, very, very fortunate. I've said this before too, but I'll say it again mainly because I want to give them credit. My parents were incredibly supportive and incredibly patient, and allowed me to save up money, train myself in my skills, so that when eventually I would be, striking it out on my own, which I have been able to, and I'm happy that I have been, that I would be covered and know what I'm doing and be able to sustain myself. And that took a lot of time. I would have loved to have moved out of my parents' place, like, as soon as I was done with college. But because of, just the whole situation of, I know that my future lies in going to California, which is where the industry is, etc., I have to think smart in terms of what my livelihood is going to be. And because my skill set is entirely in my passion, as many, art, and when I say artist, I mean like drawing, like artists go, a lot of us aren't very good at anything else but that. We're quite shit at anything else but that.
I have heard that from a lot of people.
I mean, I don't know, like actually his Kenny, Detective X, I don't want to speak for him, but I mean, has he had to work day jobs? Is he any good at that kind of stuff, or is he just no, it's all art for me, man?
Oh, he still does.
Okay.
Yeah, because he even admits that he's not going to make a lot of money doing art. Now, granted, if he started doing commissions, I think he'd do a lot more, because everybody's asking for X, Y, and Z art from him.
Well, you hear that, Kenny? You should do that shit.
I keep telling him every freaking...
Well, now I'm telling you if he should listen to this.
Yeah, Kirb's an artist. I'm not. He knows his stuff. But
I mean, we're all artists, in some way, sure.
Sure, but and as a physical artist, pen and paper or pen and tablet. Kenny still works a day job. He doesn't make his money on YouTube. He doesn't make his money doing art, but he's comfortable with his current job, his current 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But he's told me that he knew that he wasn't going to go much with his art degree. He had some optimism at first, but that is his passion. But again, it doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah. I guess, now to go back to the question itself, too. So, TheApoke wants to know, in his context of, teaching or just pursuing it himself. That's something else, too, because, for instance, so when I was at SVA, I had a lot of really, really talented teachers who had worked on a bunch of different shows for various channels and things. And worked at real studios and everything in New York for many, many years. My first animation teacher, Doug Crane, was the guy who worked on Ninja Turtles. He worked on the Raggedy Ann and Annie movie, which has some gorgeous animation, the classic one from way back in the day. Beavis and Butthead, stuff like that. I swear to God, I feel like he was the original influence for not just Hank Hill, but the neighbor guy from Beavis and Butthead that became Hank Hill or whatever. He reminds me of him so much and looks like him, except if he were New York instead of Southern. But anyway, love you, Doug, if you ever hear this, which you probably won't. But that's the thing. These were teachers, and I had other students who were I don't want to wind up being a teacher because I want to actually work at a studio. I don't want to be at a job like that or whatever. Almost kind of insultingly. I don't think that there's any shame at all in being a teacher because that can be an extremely fulfilling job. It's not always, depending on the environment, again, going back a few subjects ago, because what work environment is 100% squeaky clean, perfect. But it can be very gratifying in terms of bestowing onto others what it is that you know, which is something that I try to do to some small extent with stuff like this, with doing Kirblogs. What kind of advice would you give to somebody, any kind of artist or content creator or whatever, in terms of balancing passion and livelihood? Obviously, you've given your personal experience. What maybe things that you didn't think of, when you were first starting out, or things that could be applied to now as things have changed? Anything like that?
Really, the biggest important thing about balancing anything, especially if you're trying to craft your own way and be your own boss, or even just make your own passion into your job, you can't give up. You just got to keep doing it. There's every single time that you feel like that you can't go on any longer, which it's going to be frequent no matter what you're doing. Even if you're just not an artist, you're going to have many times where you feel like, oh, I can't sustain myself, the world feels like it's falling down. You're going to be okay as long as you just keep working hard and continually trying to get better and trying to, solve these problems one by one. You can't let every small mistake and every misstep, get you down. You have to keep going. And sometimes you need to sacrifice, personal gratification, social events, sometimes even, great food, just to keep yourself afloat. Sometimes you need to throw yourself into your work. You got to make sacrifices because nobody got anywhere. Just nobody handed them anything. At least most artists. There are some small examples where like a legacy family, but almost everybody who's done their own thing has put in a lot of work and effort.
Yeah, I mean, there's often the saying, and it is true to an extent about, like, you know, work smarter, not harder. You do have to be smart, but also you do still have to work hard.
You still have to work. It's called work for a reason.
Yeah. And there's always ways to, like, make, you know, even sometimes the most menial bullshit tasks, like, still, if not enjoyable, just, like, something that can benefit you in the long run, you know, to any kind of extent. You just have to, like, you have to put thought into it. You have to put some kind of, like, cognitive thought into what it is that you're doing, you know, so that it can benefit you as best as possible. So you're not just being fucking miserable, you know, because I know a lot of people that have been like that, and it doesn't work out, and it sucks, and I hate seeing that. The other thing, too, is, I mean, this is a little bit off topic, but it still feels like it's worth applying, especially because I was talking about my teachers. One of them, who was my writing teacher, and he was my thesis advisor for my last year of school, had this great phrase about, in life, we're not rewarded for hard work, we're rewarded for outstanding work, you know? And granted, in YouTube, that line is a little bit blurred, because not everything is outstanding that, you know, is rewarded for. But the point is, like, I think putting in the time and effort to what it is that you want to do will eventually pay off in the long run. And it requires a lot of patience, like a lot of patience, you know, because, again, that answer that I gave to the person, you know, not this morning, but a couple days ago when this is coming out, about how that was 4 years to get where it is that I got now with Tome. And again, I had a lot of help. I had to have a lot of patience. I had to work really hard. I had to apply all of the stuff that Drake and I have been talking about for the last 40 minutes now, etc. It wasn't easy. But you know what? It was also a really, really good time in my life, both in my enjoyment, in my growth, in what I learned, in what I managed to accomplish, and especially in, you know, when it all kind of came to a head, like having the panel at Anime Expo, and, you know, having the big kind of final reward for, you know, not just me, but everybody who worked on the show for all that time. You know, the gratification of that was immense, you know? And now, in this next case, actually, because I said this about my 2016 New Year's resolutions, where I want this to be the year of improvement. I want to get better at all of the 700 things that I fucking do. And that, you know, that is a sacrifice in terms of I'm not going to have as much time to create stuff as much as I want to. You know, I would love to do another big project like Tome or something, because having stuff like that is such a big guiding light in my life that it gives me purpose. But I'm trying to be patient, focus on just making as much money as I can, you know, in terms of, like, just work, and then improving myself so that when I get to a point where I've saved up enough, ding, there we go, money, to, you know, do the next big thing that I want to do, whatever that may be, because I don't know what it is right now, then it'll be bigger and better than anything that I've done before, Tome aside, you know? I mean, Drake, you're in a pretty good position right now with the stuff that you've been doing for Game Theory, but obviously Timelines has been on a little bit of, you know, a break, and you've been focusing on stuff like Smash History.
Yeah.
Do you have a big thing that you want to aspire to, like next, as you're kind of focusing, what it seems like mainly on Livelihood with a good dose of passion in it?
Honestly, what I really want to do is I just want to be able to support myself with my own channels. And that's been crazy, because, you know, without Game Theory, I would not make enough to live. Honestly, with both of my channels, my personal channels combined, I don't even make enough to pay my editor what I pay him. But that's what I'm hoping to do. And honestly, I don't know, because YouTube is such a weird gamble that I guarantee you, when I'm 70, nobody's going to want to hear me talk about video games. Nobody's going to care. There's going to be some kid with whatever crazy haircut they're going to have in the
year 2020, when Tome comes out.
you don't know what's gonna be like then, and it's really scary, because like you said, I don't know how many skills I have outside of, you know, making videos. I could definitely work a cash register.
Well, I don't think you want to aspire to going back to that again, necessarily.
I want to aspire to, you know, have something that I can do for the rest of my life, that I can craft now, that way I can retire and not have to go back to, I don't know, maybe when I'm 70 I'll be a greeter at Walmart. Hopefully I won't. That's what I'm aspiring to, not have to go back to retail.
Right. Well, I mean, you've been living that dream for a pretty fair amount of time now, I think.
Honestly, not really. I've been making YouTube videos for 7 years. It takes a long time to get anywhere, and I've only really seen any kind of return on that over the past 2. Like
but 2 years. I mean, all things considered, that's pretty good.
2 years,
like, where you are now,
probably the best 2 years of my life. I won't deny it, but it was nothing but blood, sweat, and tears to get to this point.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure where to go from here. Do you have anything else that you want to add that maybe I haven't hit up that you feel might be important?
Most important rule in life that I have lived by for a long time: fail faster. Any time that you want to do something and get better at something, you're going to fail over and over and over again. And that's okay, because when you fail, you learn from your mistakes and you get better and never do those again, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So
I'm envisioning that one scene from fucking Avatar where like Zuko and Sokka are at the Boiling Rock and he's like, "You're gonna fail again and again and again," and Sokka's just like, "Yeah, you're not helping."
Yeah, it's exactly that though. Like you have to try, and nobody is perfect overnight. And anytime that you make a mistake or you mess up, learn from it, get better. Because anybody, like going back to like YouTube, my first videos are god awful. Chris, I'm sure you think that your first attempts at animation were god-awful.
I do not like the original 3 Parody Rangers.
I like them.
I have a soft spot for the movie. The original 3, absolutely not. Except for the performances of like Cressito and Edwin and a bunch of those guys. But anyway.
Yeah, but you've definitely gotten better. I personally love the Parody Ranger stuff, but I mean, Tome is night and day in terms of quality. Because you took your mistakes and you learned from them. So make all your mistakes as fast as you can so you can get better even quicker.
And you want to know something too? I'll say this. Because actually this is about the perfect segue. The person who was asking me about like how did you amass the following that you have for Tome and everything, I keep going back. I'm kind of answering their question, I guess. Let me even pull up their name real quick while I'm remembering.
3 Kirblogs in 1.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I guess so. In the case of like, when I was doing that stuff back in the day, I know I've told these stories before, but I was motivated by wanting to get popular, Cobra Nation was the person who's asking this, so hopefully this sheds some light on this a little bit, dude. I was motivated by selfish, dumb bullshit because I was a teenager and was enamored by the prospect of, like, getting a fucking fan base and like being appreciated by a lot of people for what I do.
I remember those days. Those were fun.
Yeah, and it's like if that's I'm not assuming that's what the question is implying, but it's like you can't let that also be your driving force. Like it should be for better reasons. Like being able to make a living, I think is definitely important. But also like, if there is no passion to like you're not enjoying what it is that you're doing, then don't do it.
Why are you doing it? What's the point?
I even just recently, and for those of you who maybe might have missed the Supersonic sequel stream that we did with Some Call Me Johnny, our friend Soul, who was one of the folks that was helping out with rainy donations and stuff, they were talking about working on Project Unleashed and everything, and they put all this blood, sweat, and tears into working on this project and making it as good as possible. And while also saying, yeah, but I would really much be rather like working on my own music and like learning to program better so I could, make my own games someday. And I'm just like, listen, I've seen Project Unleashed. It's quite good, and that's great, and I can tell that you worked very hard on that. But if you would rather be doing something else, and you fucking can, and especially if the other thing that you're doing isn't making you any money at all, then do that. Like, don't torture yourself, for God's sake, So not to embarrass them again, but I do feel that is worth repeating too, because it's like don't put yourself in that kind of position. There's no point to it. So I hope that any of that was helpful. I'm sure that what Drake had to say was a lot more like collected.
Oh, don't say that.
I'm not saying that to like, oh, woe is me. I'm just like, I'm so like all over the place with this kind of information. It's why I'm glad when I have more time to actually fucking like settle on these thoughts and beyond just the 20-minute, technical limitations that I set myself to because I'm a fool. But that aside, Drake, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love the Kirblogs, and I'm glad I can finally be on one.
I was also going to say earlier that you beat me to the punch on reaching 100,000 subscribers on your main channel.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
which you should plug, please.
Oh, please go to www.trailerdrake.com. I also am doing vlogs.
Do you actually own trailerdrake.com? Like, does that go to your YouTube channel?
I do, because I do not want people to go to youtube.com/SuperSaiyan101.
I didn't even realize that. I learned something else new about you today.
Oh yeah, that is totally why I got the domain name.
It's okay. I mean, Zeto is my living proof of, like, that is still a huge part of my life anyway, so what the fuck do I know? Yeah, check him out. Obviously, also check out youtube.com/MatthewPatrick13, the Game Theorist channel. Does that have a URL, an easier one?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Well, either way, if you're listening to this shit, you've probably also have already been subscribed, because he has, like, multiple times the amount of subscribers that I do ever. So, big ups to that. I'll even have a link. Go check out the fucking Mega Man crossover episode that we did if you haven't seen it.
That was solid.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that. It was actually kind of a cool one to, like, not end on, but, like, to go out on, like, while you've been taking a break from him. We should do another one.
Actually, I was actually going to ask you that at the end of the episode. So, we're doing crossover season
off camera,
2.
Behind the scenes. Do you want to tease what it might be?
Yeah, so this was like when Chris and I were trying to figure out what this episode of the crossover would be. He thought it was really cool to do the Mega Man's all in one universe thing, and using a lot of the research that Chris helped out with, I am convinced that most of the Capcom games not only take place in the same universe, but I think I can also find a timeline for most of the games, and I would love to have you on for part 2 of that.
I would love to do that. So mayhaps expect that sometime this year if we're diligent enough.
Hopefully. Well, crossover's taking a while for us to bring back, but we're trying.
2020 when Tome comes out.
Perfect.
Enjoy that. Okay. Anyway, thank you again. Thank you all for listening. And in the comments below, if you have anything further to add to this stuff, because I'm sure there's probably still things we could have covered or other bits that we could have added in. Maybe I'll even reach out to some of my other content creator friends and see if, like, maybe they want to add anything to this too. I think it was cool to have an animator and like a reviewer, more traditional YouTube content creator kind of guy on this. So thank you for your perspective on that. Yeah, and if you have future suggestions for Kirblog topics, leave a comment about that too, or hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, the usual shite. Thank you all again, and we will catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye.
Bye.